Hello everyone, this is Miss Nadine Darwish. Today is Wednesday, March 11th. Welcome to my English class of 2S to SSE. Today we are going to start with Unit 7, Lesson 1, Figures of Speech. So please open your books on pages 176-177. Our lesson objectives for today are to scan a paragraph for figures of speech and to generate a figurative sentence. Part 1, Literal Language. For example, grass looks green and sand feels rough. As you can see, these examples are completely straightforward as they mean exactly what they state. Literal language is often used when talking about facts or interesting information. Literal language is contrasted with figurative language that uses words or expressions with a meaning that is different from the literal interpretation or the actual words used, often to describe something by comparing it to something else or to create mental pictures with words. Figures of speech are a very important method of communication in our society. They specify between different shades of meaning and give more accurate descriptions. Some common figures of speech include the simile, metaphor, personification, hyperbole, and understatement. Now let's check one type of a figure of speech, which is the simile. The bells gleamed like a diamond on a dancing girl. As you can see in this example, the bells are compared to the diamonds on a dancing girl to describe how shiny they are whenever they sway. In order to do this comparison, the writer used the word like. Whereas in the second example, John is as slow as a snail. For as you know, snails are known for their slow pace. And here, the slowness of John is compared to that of a snail. The use of as in the example helps to draw the resemblance. These two are examples of a simile. A simile is a figure of speech that makes a comparison showing similarities between two different things. A simile draws resemblance with the help of the words like or as. Therefore, it is a direct comparison. Now let's move to another kind of a figure of speech, which is the metaphor. The bells the writer made were diamonds in the sun. In this example, the bells are compared to diamonds for they gleam in the sun. Another example of a metaphor is, the curtain of night fell upon us. In this metaphor, the evening did not develop into a velvet curtain. Rather, simple words are being used to paint a colorful picture. Now we know it is night time, but it's been written in a manner that alludes to how quickly night arrived with the kind of darkness that comes from closing a thick curtain. Simply put, a metaphor is a figure of speech containing an implied comparison. With metaphors, words or phrases that are normally applied to one thing are applied to something you wouldn't necessarily pair it with. Now let's move to another example of a figure of speech, which is a personification. Thanks to Clapp's eco-friendly project, Mount Everest will wear its clean, elegant dress again. As you can see in this example, Mount Everest is compared to a lady wearing a clean dress to show that it is no more polluted. Another example of a personification is, the trees whispered their discontent. In this example, the writer is personifying the trees as able to whisper and of feeling unhappy. As a literary device, a personification is the projection of characteristics that normally belong only to humans onto inanimate objects, animals, or forces of nature. These characteristics can include verbs of actions that only humans do or adjectives that describe a human condition. The characteristics can also be emotions, feelings, or motives given to objects incapable of thought. Now let's move on to another kind of a figure of speech, which is a hyperbole. Climbers have been warned a million times not to dump gear up the mountain. The writer in this example is definitely exaggerating the number of times climbers have been warned not to dump gear up the mountain. I'm so hungry I could eat a horse. This example of hyperbole exaggerates the condition of hunger to emphasize that the subject of this sentence is, in fact, very hungry. This person has no intention of literally eating a horse, but is trying to figuratively communicate his hunger using a hyperbole for effect. So as you can see, a hyperbole is a type of figurative language. Therefore, a hyperbole is not meant to be taken literally. A hyperbole is an overstatement that exaggerates a particular condition for emphasis. One more example of a figure of speech is an understatement. The earth is too big to be affected negatively by the amount of waste generated. As you can see in this example, the writer underestimates the impact of land pollution on Earth by stating that the latter is too enormous to suffer, when in fact, land pollution is taking its toll on Earth. He is not too thin. The writer used this example to describe a very obese person. So as we can see, an understatement is the opposite of hyperbole. It is a method of using gentle words to describe something dramatic, violent, or shocking. As we've seen, figures of speech are abundant in every form of writing, and their effective use brings to life what would have been mere words, phrases, and sentences. As a homework for next time, please do exercises F, G, and H on page 177. In exercise F, you need to scan paragraph 2 for a hyperbole. You have to explain it and state its purpose, and after that you need to change it into an understatement. Whereas in exercise G, you need to scan paragraph 9 for a metaphor, and you also need to explain it and state its purpose. In exercise H, you need to generate your own figurative sentence.